Hey guys, I'm Kate, and today I just thought I would share with you some Russian books which I personally love and which I think are worth reading. I've got all of the books here, and because they're so different, I decided to divide them into 4 different categories by genre. Okay, let's start with the first category, which is a romantic novel. And the book I'm going to talk about is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. So this is the story about forbidden love between a married woman and a handsome young officer, and they both belong to this high society, which makes the situation even worse because they have to conceal their feelings in order to keep a good reputation and to avoid any rumor. And it comes to the point when they both realize that they can't pretend anymore, and they start breaking rules and they rebel against this society. And the novel itself is very wise. So there are so many good thoughts concerning the relationships, love and life in general. And there is one quote which I really like, and it sounds like this: "If you look for perfection, you'll never be content." And I think this is really true. Also, some of you might have seen the movie, which was released, I guess, about 2 or 3 years ago, and it stars Keira Knightley and Jude Law, and even Cara Delevingne is in there. So if you have already seen the movie, that can be quite a good idea to read the book and to compare it with the movie. Okay, let's move on to the next category, which is detective stories. And the book that I have is Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. So to be honest, this is not a proper detective story because from the very beginning we get to know who is the murderer. But this is actually what makes this novel really unusual, because when you read the book, you literally feel like you're in the head of the main character and you know all his thoughts, his feelings, and you can see the world through his eyes, which is sometimes pretty dark and scary. So that is why I think probably not everyone will enjoy this book, but I really like the language and the style, and this is very psychological, so this is definitely worth reading. Okay, let's now move on to something a little bit more positive, and the next category is comedy and adventure stories. So here I have The 12 Chairs by Ilf and Petrov. So the actions of this novel takes place after the revolution, which was in 1917, and the main character used to be very powerful, very rich, influential, but after the revolution he loses everything and he had to move to a small town and live with his mother-in-law. And one day his mother-in-law gets very sick and he tells him her secret, that before the revolution she hid some of her jewelry into the 12 chairs which belong to their family, and since that time the main character decides to find that treasure. He is joined by another man, and this is when the treasure hunt begins. I read this book last summer and I didn't really expect I would enjoy it so much. And this book is just so entertaining and the plot is very unpredictable. There are so many twists in there, and also this is a very funny book because the characters always get into very awkward situations and they're just hilarious. So yeah, The 12 Chairs by Ilf and Petrov, highly recommended. And the last category which I have for you today is going to be sci-fi or an anti-utopian novel. And the book which I have is called We by Zamyatin. So if you like 1984 as much as I do, you should definitely read this book because it's actually inspired Orwell to write his novel. So because this is anti-utopian novel, the action takes place in the far future when the life of a single person and of the whole society is completely controlled by the government. So people have no names, just letters and numbers instead, and they wear the same clothes and live in absolutely transparent houses so that everyone could see what the other person is doing. So there is no privacy at all. But you know what struck me the most when I was reading the book was that the main character actually enjoyed that life and he approved of the system and of the government and its actions. But one day he meets this woman who is absolutely different from all the people around, and he falls in love with her and starts breaking the rules. And you know, this book is just one of my favorites in this genre because I really enjoyed the love story and the plot is very unpredictable. I didn't expect this novel would have such an ending, and because this is anti-utopia, there are so many good philosophical thoughts in there and it really gives you food for thinking, which is always very good with books. So I would love to read you one of the quotes which I really like from this novel, and it sounds like this. A man is like a novel. Until the very last page you don't know how it will end. Otherwise it wouldn't be worth reading. So I really like this quote, and again, I absolutely agree with this quote. I think this is very true. So these were 4 Russian books which I really wanted to share with you guys. I hope this video was somehow interesting and useful for you. If you have already read some of the books which I mentioned in this video, please let me know in the comments. I'm really interested to know what you think. And yeah, I'll see you in my next video. Пока!